Today I was going to talk about going to Australia on a working holiday visa. And why I did it, and like what was it like, and everything behind the scenes, because when I first did it I was like terrified, because I'm quite like a planning person, so going into it not knowing much about it was like a big leap of faith. So I just thought this would be helpful for anyone that's considering it and wanted to know more about it, or like why you would want to do it. The main reason I did it was because after finishing uni, I knew I wanted to travel anyway, and I'd heard of this and I thought it would be a perfect way, as I didn't have like that much money saved up after you need to travel for a whole year and work in a different country as well. Especially in the area of work that I'm in, I thought working abroad might be something that I'd want to look into anyway, because I do illustration and animation at uni. So yeah, I forgot what I was talking about. It's also useful if you don't know what you want to do yet, like having that time out just to kind of travel and meet new people, experience new things, kind of opens your mind up to like things you think you might want to do. So a lot of people do it straight out of school as well. I met a lot of people that were 18, 19 travelling, which for me that would have been terrifying, but like I'm quite a shy person, so if you're more outgoing then definitely straight out of school. A lot of people do that too. Also people do it too if you're very party animal, like to get it all out of your system before you want to like settle down or like get a job, the traditional way of speaking I guess. But yeah, it's a good way also to get into travelling, because it's definitely something that I want to do more, is backpacking, and the amount I've learned about staying in hostels and just travelling without much of a plan. Like before, I don't mean on holidays where I planned what I'm doing beforehand like rigorously. So yeah, it was definitely good for that. It's also good if you want a way in to starting that, because I know a lot of people travel full time, like their family have already done that for years, like so they're kind of exposed to that already. But a lot of people like start travel blogs while they're travelling, and it's a good way to like meet people that are working while travelling, because I know I've messaged people through my Instagram that work travel, so you can find out jobs like that you can do while travelling. So the technical side of it, the visa first off is I'll put it on the screen, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a working holiday visa in Australia, and it's really popular with people kind of 18 to 25. I think you can be up to 30. I'll look it up and put it on the screen. But you do have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account, like to prove that you can support yourself for like the first, like getting out there and paying for accommodation while you look for jobs and stuff. You can either do it on your own, so you can just apply for a working holiday visa on the government website, or you can go through a travel agency. So me and my boyfriend went through STA Travel, and it was really helpful going through them. They set everything up for us, so like even like SIMs for our phones and stuff, and a bank account. They helped us set all of that up, so that kind of being a planner, like that helped me like feel a bit more safe about going, like not just kind of leaping into the unknown quite as much. It is more expensive doing it that way, but it is also a bit peace of mind that you can always message this person, because they kind of message you on WhatsApp, so you can always message them if you have any questions. And when we first got out there, we had a really big problem with our SIM card, so we could just message them and be like, why isn't it working, like, and they could just talk us through it. It was a bit scary. We first got out there and we didn't have a SIM and we couldn't contact anyone, and we were just like so we spent like a whole day trying to work out our SIM, and we didn't have internet, so we had to go to this shopping centre. We were just sat there using their free Wi-Fi trying to work out what to do, and we were shattered because we were like tired from jet lag, and obviously there's a flight as well, which at the moment I know working holiday visas aren't happening, but like this is good kind of for the future if you're looking to do it, because we booked our flight in just before I finished uni, probably May time, and then we went in September, so we didn't really plan that far ahead. We kind of already knew that we wanted to do it. It wasn't that far ahead, and the flights don't change that much, I found. They do obviously a month or two beforehand, but if you're talking like 6 months to a year, I think they don't really vary that much. That's cool, kind of the technical bits. A lot of people go out there and work straight away. It's kind of up to you, like what your money situation is. We did travel all the way up until we got to Sydney, and then we got a job there. We did try to get jobs in other places, but it is really hard to get jobs in big cities. We didn't realise how hard it would be to get jobs in big cities. We thought kind of there'll be jobs going everywhere, but there's a lot of people on working holiday visas, and that does make it hard because there's big stigma about hiring people working holiday visas, because people know you're just there to make money and then leave, so you'll only be there a few months. But a lot of people just say, oh yeah, I'll be here for 6 months, but they won't. So yeah, there's certain jobs that will hire working holiday visas compared to a lot of industries that just won't even consider you. I just wanted to quickly add here the types of jobs that are easiest to get. So here's like a list of some we did and some that I know other people did and found it easier to get these jobs with a working holiday visa. From there, we worked in Sydney for about 4 months, I want to say, just because it took us ages to find jobs and then to earn enough money doing that job. And then we met some people in Sydney and travelled up the east coast. The next thing I was going to talk about is farm work, because for your visa, if you want to stay for a second year, you have to work for 3 months on a farm, or if you want to stay for your third year, you have to work for 6 months on a farm. So with working holiday visas, there's a lot of stigma between, not stigma, exploitation. Yeah, there's a lot of exploitation of working holiday visas in the farming industry in Australia, just because they know that you need to work on a farm to get your next year visa. So a lot of people will just work in awful conditions for awful pay just to get that. It's really up to you, like if you're into the party lifestyle and that kind of thing, which a lot of people that do working holiday visas are. A lot of places that would be good for that. Like we went to, oh my god, what's the place called? My mind's going blank. Bundaberg. Obviously Bundaberg's very well known for farm work and being very exploitative, so we ended up there because of the COVID situation. Yeah, wasn't ideal, and we didn't stay there long. One day we worked 8 hours planting rows, and I was sat in a trench shuffling along on my bum in mud with the sprinklers on, so I was soaking wet at like 6 a.m. in the morning, so it was cold. I was soaking wet and sat in mud planting planting plants for 8 hours, and you only get paid if you finish a row, and no one in my group finished their row, and so we didn't get paid anything for 8 hours. So the next day we finished it and did one more row, and we got paid £8 for that row each. So yeah, it's very exploitative. I mean, they tell you, oh, you'll speed up, and I'm like, I'm not going to speed up that much. It's not going to suddenly take me an hour to do one row, like, and that's still not minimum wage. Like, I wouldn't recommend Bundaberg. We had no other choice at that point, so we had to do that. There was also a lot of other weird stories about Bundaberg that just made me hate it more, but that could be another story time, I guess. Sorry, I'm like getting lower and lower because my legs are hurting because I was kneeling up, so if I'm like really low in the frame, I'm sorry. Then we went on to Bowen because luckily one of our friends that we met out there, one of their friends had a job in Bowen, so we went to this guy who contracts people out, which is another thing I would say not to do, is to work for contractors, because basically they're subcontracting you out to farms, and they often tell you they've got jobs and like it's fine, they've got jobs for you and like things like that, and then you're sat around waiting for these jobs to start, and it takes forever for them to come, because especially when I was doing it during COVID, so it's not always the case, so it is quite unique probably the situation that I was in. We had to wait for months when we got to Bowen, and we were told we'd only be waiting 2 weeks. So it is like exploitative basically. But the pay was good when we did work, because I ended up working night shifts on a packing farm. I mean, afterwards I couldn't straighten my fingers, and I only worked there for 2 months, I want to say. Yeah, around 2 months. Yeah, and I couldn't straighten my fingers. Maybe I'm just weak. It was kind of a running joke that because a lot of Asians work on farms and they're really good at working on farms, and we met so many people and they were always like laughing at us because we're like, the Europeans are like rubbish at farm work apparently, so it wasn't the worst thing. I met loads of nice people in Bowen, and Bowen's a beautiful place. I don't think I'd put myself through it again. So when we were actually out there, we decided that we wanted to travel a bit to begin with. We flew out to Adelaide because we thought we mostly want to work our way from Adelaide up to Cairns, like along the coast that way, and we wanted to go to the Northern Territory as well, and then we thought if we had time we could go to Western Australia, but because of COVID we never got round to it. So we started off in Adelaide, and we started travelling from Adelaide. We went up to the Northern Territory first to see Ayers Rock and Alice Springs, and I do recommend doing that, because from anywhere else you have to fly. I mean, we got a coach that was like, it was either 24 or 48 hours on a coach, and it was like long, but it was worth it, and I would recommend doing that. Or I know people that have hired cars or bought cars and driven up through the desert to get up there. I mean, personally I wouldn't do that, because if you broke down, there is a lot of scary stories about people breaking down, and I don't know much about mechanics and stuff like that, so I wouldn't want to do that. But if you're with people that know stuff about the outback and about mechanics, so that if anything happened with your car then you would be okay, then definitely go for that. You can always like meet people along the way that you can travel up with, but we were like right at the beginning of our trip, so we didn't really know anyone. So yeah, we started at Adelaide and then worked our way around the coast. We knew people out there, so we could stay with people, which again makes it a bit less scary. I mean, I'd never met these people, but they were my extended family, so I could go and stay with them. So that is useful if you do know people, obviously. The next thing I wanted to talk about is just how you get around and where's the best places to go, I think. There's obviously options. You can travel by coach, which we did. You can fly places and just go to individual places, which I also did, and you can hire or buy cars. We hired a few cars. I never bought a car, but a lot of people do that. They'll buy a car and then they'll put everything they own in that so that they can drive that around, and there is a really cheap market for cars out there that backpackers kind of pass between them. The only problem is, again, if you're good with mechanics, because obviously these cars are old and they've been used by a lot of people and done a lot of miles. If you can do mechanic stuff yourself, that's probably a good option. But if you can't, you're going to run up a lot of bills, like trying to fix things and things like that, because I have heard like horror stories of like people buying a car and then a week later something goes and then they have to spend thousands of pounds fixing something. So there's travelling by coach. We did this up the East Coast, so it's like you buy bus tickets and they're hop on, hop off. I think these are amazing value for money. It's obviously not the nicest thing, like the bus drivers are often really grumpy and not friendly, but obviously it depends which bus you go with, because we also did this with up to Uluru on the Greyhound, and that was a really nice experience. Like the bus driver was lovely, he stopped off at places and like showed us things, and he was talking to us, he was really friendly. But then we got the insert name because I can't remember it here up the East Coast, and the buses were crowded and the the bus drivers were just grumpy and horrible for no reason to people. Like, they were shouting at this woman who had a baby because she had it laid on 2 seats, and then she had another child on another seat, and he was like shouting at her because she'd taken up all these seats even though half the bus was empty. Like, no one needed those seats. So it's just unnecessarily shouting at people. But they are really cheap and useful for like going to lots of places. We had like a month-long pass to go to as many places as we want. You can book it in like the day before, so that's kind of what we did. I would highly recommend that. Oh, and the last thing was, last two, flying to places. So we didn't really do this. The only place we flew from Australia was to Tasmania. I know a lot of people that have flown from like Brisbane to like Western Australia or South Australia to up to Cairns and stuff like that, but we just travelled around the coast really, so we didn't want to waste like the money going backwards and forwards to places. So yeah, we kind of just went in one kind of straight line of travel. Depends how organised you are. Like, if you meet someone and they're like going to Cairns and then you skip loads of things, and then after being in Cairns for a bit you want to go back to those things, obviously you might want to fly. Yeah, it just depends really. Go with the flow, I'd say. Like, don't structure yourself too much. Like, the way it worked out with us, it did just work out that way, but yeah, you don't need to. The last one was campervans. So we hired I want to say 3 or 4. Adelaide to Melbourne. We hired a car Adelaide to Melbourne, then we flew to Tasmania and we hired a camper around Tasmania, which I highly recommend. And then Melbourne to Sydney we hired a campervan, and then the East Coast we hired a campervan. I can't even count. I'll put it on the screen how many. My boyfriend's gonna laugh because he'll be like, how can you not remember that? But yeah, here it is. We hired quite a few campervans, and it is expensive to hire campervans, but when you weigh in the fact that it's your transport and your accommodation and like the convenience of it, you can just camp anywhere. Like in Tasmania we had some of the most beautiful camping spots because you can just travel wherever. So we camped in lakes in the middle of the mountains. Obviously, normally you could drive there, but you couldn't stay there too late because driving through the mountains in the middle of the night isn't that safe with like wildlife in Australia. You probably wouldn't be able to see like sunset over the lake and stuff like that, so I would highly recommend getting campervans for like more remote places in Australia, because it's just beautiful staying in like mountains and seeing sunsets and sunrises. Yeah, we also, Northern Queensland, we got a campervan, Cairns, the Daintree, and like all inland there as well, which was really good because it was the end of our trip and we kind of just wanted to see as many places as we could and do as many things. Okay, so the best places that we went, I'm probably going to repeat myself a lot here, so I'll try and cut things out if I am, but bear with. The things that stick out in my mind as quite an artistic person who loves hiking, and I'm not a big party animal, so we didn't go to places to club, so take that in mind if that's someone that you are. Anyway, I'll kind of try and start at the beginning so I don't forget anything. In Adelaide, there's a lot of lovely national parks. We went to I want to say it was the Adelaide Art Gallery. I'll insert a picture and clip and stuff, and it was probably one of the nicest art galleries I've ever been to in my life. Like, the curation of it was just stunning, and I still think about it now. I want to go back. It's sad it's just an art gallery, but it was just amazing. So if you know any other art galleries like that, leave me a comment because I'd love to know. But I'd like my house to look like it because it just was really nice. Going on from Adelaide, the Grampians. The Grampians were stunning. We didn't get to spend much time here, and we just were driving through and we saw the sunset at the top at Viewpoint. So yeah, when you're going anywhere in cars and vans, just search Viewpoints on the map and you can just see like stunning views and like sunsets and sunrises. It's great. We did have to drive through there in the night, which was a bit scary, but we did it, and we didn't hear any kangaroos, we just saw lots. So the next, Tasmania, just The whole of Tasmania is stunning, just highly recommend. Beautiful views, lovely hikes and walks. There's even, we went on a ghost tour in Port Douglas. I want to say it's Port Douglas, I get everything mixed up because they all sound the same. There's loads of port places. Melbourne has an amazing music scene and all the vineyards and stuff, so we did a wine tour there and that was amazing. And we went to a gig there as well. And we actually did life drawing as well, so yeah, lots to do in Melbourne. I did really like it as a city. Yeah, there's just a bit for everyone, really. Great Ocean Road. I think it was a bit underwhelming, if I'm honest. We didn't go in the best weather, I think, which probably put me off a bit, but my boyfriend would probably say he loved it. We stayed in some really interesting hostels along the way there, and it was kind of our first experience of more independent hostels, which I would highly recommend. That's another thing. We tried to go with more independent hostels than like the big ones like Nomads. There's like really big names and they are good for like, again, partying, for knowing what you're going to get. But on the whole, these like little independent backpackers, just, they've got friendlier people and they've got weird quirky vibes, and yeah, definitely recommend independent hostels. Sidetracked again, we did surfing because Bells Beach is like a really famous surf place, but we didn't surf there, we surfed. Maybe we did. I can't remember. Sydney I disliked, but I had some bad experiences. That's the thing, you kind of think when you're travelling it would just be like one massive holiday, but it is life, like you're living and travelling, like you're working, living, travelling, and sometimes things do get hard, and Sydney for me have bad memories associated with it. And it was just the city, it was very London, there was a bit of everything, but it wasn't my favourite place. There was beautiful things to do, Watson's Bay and Palm Beach, which is just out of Sydney, and the Royal National Park, all beautiful places, and of course Blue Mountains, want to live there. And I actually met up with one of my friends from home who'd come out for a few months in Blue Mountains, so love you, Josie. From there, yeah, we went up the east coast. Of course, I mean, I'm not going to say much about it, but everyone knows about it. Oh my god. Byron. Okay, yeah, Byron, amazing. I love hippie ideals and lifestyle. Yeah, I love Byron. It was just such chilled, laid back. There was so much culture and arts, and I just loved that vibe. It just made me happy. And we surfed. We got up at like 4 AM I think to surf for one of my friend's birthdays, and that was pretty amazing, watching the sunrise, and there was dolphins jumping through the waves. I've actually got a tattoo because it was one of my best memories of Australia. We then did a boat tour on the Whitsundays and Fraser Island, which are quite famous things. Again, highly recommend. It's fine like if you're on your own or in a group, like both ways is amazing to do. I did it with just my boyfriend and we had a great time. Whitsundays we got the end of a cyclone, so I'm not a big water person anyway. I'm just a bit of a chicken when it comes to like knowing that there's things underneath me, so yeah, snorkeling wasn't really for me, especially as it just been a cyclone. The water was a bit cloudy and I read that was like the worst for shark attacks, so that made me very nervous. Obviously there's different types of boats, whether you like partying more or you just want literally to snorkel and dive and stuff, so we went for like an in-between one. Yeah, it was good. Fraser Island, amazing, literally do it. It was so good. And I think the situation we were in, we kind of just rolled with it, and that's kind of the motto of going to Australia and working holiday this year, is just roll with it really. We were in a massive rainstorm and the weather was just not nice, so it was cold and wet. Yeah, I just lived in my bikini and was just running around camp in my bikini a lot of the time. We didn't want to get all of our dry clothes soaking wet. It's a great body positivity moment. Yeah, and we were just camping in like puddles and it was just an experience that you never forget. So, and like making loads of friends, like just drinking goon. Goon's like a cheap wine that they have in Australia. It's just like sugary and worst hangovers. Don't recommend, but also highly recommend. Fraser, yeah. We also went Daintree, beautiful, recommend again. There's not much I wouldn't recommend that I did. Like, I guess you can never do anything wrong really. You're going to decide what you want to do. I'd recommend going around all Daintree and stuff. Port Douglas is amazing. beautiful like vibe there. Like again, it's quite like Byron, it's just very laid back and kind of that sort of lifestyle. And on our last day, well, we love hiking, so before we flew back to England we were going to climb up Walsh's Pyramid as a challenge to ourselves. That was amazing, beautiful views. I'd say anything in Australia, if it's got a nice view and you're with nice people, just do it. Like, yeah, it's very much a say yes to everything mentality. Just try new things, and things that you wouldn't normally put yourself in that situation to do, just try and go out of your comfort zone. I met so many amazing people in Australia and so many unique experiences that I wouldn't have put myself in that situation in England. It was a great experience that I would recommend anyone to do. Yes. Thank you for watching this video about Australian working holiday visas. Let me know if you want any more videos about stories, funny stories. Probably got a few I can tell. Subscribe and like the video if you want to see more. Thank you for watching. Okay, so today I was going to talk about how so they yeah, it's not nice. What's the word? Yeah. Oh, my legs are going dead. My legs are going so dead. Oh my god, my mind's gone blank. Anyway. Keep up.